Howdy, folks. Today we're doing something a little different. We're coming to you live from the Click Live Lite Expo in Milton Keynes, where we've been chatting with some of the incredible speakers, manufacturers, and exhibitors right here at the show. And I ran into some friends of the show as well. So all that and more right after this. Welcome to Camera Shake, where we bring you the insider scoop on all things photography and videography, giving you a unique opportunity to stay ahead of the curve. And hey, if you haven't already, make sure you sign up to the Camera Shake mailing list over at camerashakepodcast.com. We've got some awesome stuff coming up soon, so make sure you get your name down on that list ASAP. Now, without further ado, let's dive straight into all the action from Click Live Lite 2025 right here on the Camera Shake podcast. Edward Scott, good to meet you, over here at the Click Expo.
Yeah.
How have you been, man?
Yeah, good. It's been busy. I mean, you came into the studio. We did a podcast not long after we were at Imaging USA, and it's not stopped since, which has been really good. So the portraiture side has really picked up. We're shooting a few weddings, just about to move studios, so it's all systems go. I'm going to Sweden in the morning to judge out there, so it's going well, mate. It's going well.
Yeah. So you're traveling all over the place. So in Sweden, judging, what is it you're judging?
So Sweden, it's their National Photographic Awards. So like Imaging USA and societies here, they have a digital prelimination round. That was done in August, I think. August. And then the top 5 images in each category go to the print round, and that's judged live on Thursday and Friday.
Right.
And today was Tuesday, and I've not packed yet, and I go tomorrow morning, so it's right.
So you're scooting right from here to the airport? Or
No, I'm going home, doing this. So I'm in Milton Keynes, going back to Chelmsford, do a school run, take my wife to get a car at the garage, then back to Heathrow, and then a couple of beers tonight before I fly in the morning.
It's the way to do it, man. It's the way to do it.
Yeah.
So how things, you've been really busy, actually. Here.
Yeah, the portraiture side has exploded more than I ever thought. I remember when we spoke last time, it was a tentative. We were just starting out to see how it was kind of going, and it's been going extremely well. So we've had almost 100 sessions since we spoke to you last. We've got a good average on those at the minute. So we're making money, man. So we can't complain. It's busy, but I'm more selective about what I want to do now. So whereas a wedding, you'd start at 10 and finish at probably 8:30, 9 o'clock. Studio, I'm starting at 9, I'm finished at 4, I'm done, I'm at home. So it's perfect.
I think, we talked about it last time a little bit. I thought that your move into portraiture is sort of a perfect addition to weddings, because you were telling me last time that weddings were starting to kind of ebb off a little bit. Is there a particular reason for that?
I mean, this year's a funny year for a number of things. I think the wedding market has been hit a little bit by the world events, less security in people's jobs, less, confidence in people spending good money. So we have to adapt. I think we said to last time, if you're not adapting in this industry, then you're only going to be going backwards. So, and having 20 years of wedding clients to call upon to come in for portraits is actually worked really, really well. So, we've been hitting that pretty hard. It's been going, touch wood. We're moving studios as a result. We've outgrown the space that we're in. I need more space where I could probably fit 4, maybe 5 people in one image, and we have to composite everything else. We'll now be able to get 12 in one shot. So it means I can shoot more people and hopefully make more money.
And also, it means we have to, make another Inside the Studio episode, clearly.
Well, you're welcome to come back anytime.
It's all out of date.
It will be. Yeah, it will be out of date now. So, so we'll be a couple of weeks in transition from moving the backdrops, moving the furniture. We've got laminate floor going down. So at the minute, it's just an office unit. It's an empty office unit with horrible green, horrible blue carpet tiles.
Yeah.
But in 3 weeks' time, it'll become the Edge Photography Studio.
I tell you, that would be super interesting. Are you going to do some before and after?
Yes. Yeah. So I'll just show you, obviously, for the that's what it is like now. So for the camera, it's that. And then, but we'll be doing some behind the scenes of turning it from that into what it's going to be.
Yeah.
So we'll be doing all of that.
Yeah, that's a super interesting thing, because that's really almost like, creating a blueprint for people to turn their studios. It's interesting because, over the last few years, I've been talking to a number of photographers who've set up their own studios. And a lot of time, the basic thought process was the same, as in I need a dedicated shooting space.
Yeah.
But the way that people have solved that problem has been really interesting, because the solutions have been, they've varied from like, oh, I'm going to turn my living room into a studio to I'm going to hire a dedicated space to I'm going to completely rebuild like an outbuilding in the garden or something, into a purpose-built studio.
Well, you knew when you came in before, I had either a shooting space or a selling space. So when I wasn't doing one, I had to turn it from one into the other.
Right.
That's now not going to be a problem because I now have the room and space to keep both at the same time. I still don't think I want to sell and shoot at the same time because it's one open plan studio. So imagine you get some kids that are less than cooperative during this shoot and you're trying to sell at the same time. So I'll still separate that, but I won't have to turn it from A to B anymore. I'll have A and B at the same time.
Yeah.
And that is going to save me 40 minutes each time.
Because, I mean, again, that's an interesting concept, to separate the shooting day from the selling day, sort of thing.
Yeah, I try and sell in the evenings, but I did do a run of viewings on Sunday, and they went very well. We had a very high average for those 3 sessions that came in. So yeah, it was good.
Yeah,
it was really good.
I can't wait to see it, man. When is it going to be ready?
We start moving when we get back from Sweden, and we got our first session on the 24th of October. So we've got 3 weeks to go from an empty space into a working space. Right. So no pressure, Johnson.
Fantastic, man. Can't wait to see it.
Real pleasure,
Ben,
mate.
Thank you so much for taking a few minutes out and welcome me here. And I know you've got to run to the airport, so thank you very much, man.
Anytime, man. All the best.
We'll speak soon.
I look forward to it. Take care.
Fantastic. Ivan Duran, how's it going, man?
Good. We're here in Click conference and my first time in this part of the world, so I'm excited. Yeah.
Is this your first time in the UK?
Yeah, first time. Yeah.
Okay, cool. What's your impression so far?
It's very different for sure. Flying from California, like I got to see London just from up top, and it looked very amazing. Like the city is just like very, very different for sure. So I'm excited to go and explore because I haven't done that. So yeah.
Yeah, London is a beautiful city. I mean, especially when you're flying into Heathrow. Yeah, and it's it does that loop over the town. The weather's right. It's like
true, and the weather is kind of like what it's for me back home. Like I'm from Berkeley, so it's nice and cloudy all the time, and that's what I like. So yeah, I'm happy. Yeah,
cool. So the English weather. Well, so far actually you were quite lucky today. I think that's generally. Although. Let's talk about your talks today because you've been talking, you've been teaching.
Yeah.
Give us a bit of an overview over what your day was like today.
Yeah, my first talk in the stage, he was just like a small presentation, and it was. I think it went well. It was just kind of like the journey of my career, like how I became, where I am, I guess, and in the process. And I think I like to share that because when you talk to other photographers that are kind of like, I think sometimes we're intimidated to talk to them because we think that everything they do, it's amazing, right? That they just have the camera and they just create art or whatever. But that's not we know that that's not true, right? But not many photographers show kind of like where they started and how bad we were, right? And that to me, when I started, I saw how one of my favorite photographers started in his images, and that make a lot of impact to me. So I wanted to share that with this conference just to see where it was, and that it's possible to grow.
Yeah, I think that's a really important message because you see that often with, and actually you could bracket in any genre of photography. You take wedding photography, right? I remember I had a conversation with Jerry Gionis one time. And, you look at his images, you go, oh, wow, incredible. Yeah, what you don't see are the other 4,000 shots that were trash. Not trash, but, not as good as the one that you're looking at. And so it's always the thing. We only see what people want to show us, ultimately.
Yeah, and I think that's, at least for me, make a big difference to see like, oh, man, this... They used to make this bad mistakes, and they were like bad, and now where they are. So it inspired me to be like, okay, it is, I have a shot at this. So
yeah, that's always the thing, and I always think for anybody thinking of getting into photography, I think, or actually any creative discipline for that matter, it's always you just have to get started. Done is better than perfect, as I say.
True. Yeah.
Cool. And then you've also been teaching upstairs.
Yeah, so I just finished my class. It was great. It was a 3-hour class, just pretty much kind of like teaching I guess creative lighting. That's what I call it. Like just something a little different. And I like the concept because a lot of us think that creative lighting it needs a lot of lights or gels or all this equipment, right? But I always go back to where I started, and because I feel like in conferences, a lot of photographers are just starting or like are kind of like in the process. And when you start, you don't have that much gear. You don't have that much knowledge. You don't have a lot of money, right? So I wanted to do this class where they know that you can do something amazing, creative with not a lot of equipment or with whatever they have, which I think that's important because, like I said, not a lot of people like have all those fancy lights, right? So,
Yeah.
But it's good to know that it's possible to make that kind of like work with a minimal amount of gear.
Yeah. And again, I think a lot of people, especially in photography, I think a lot of people suffer from the gear acquisition syndrome, and the thing with lighting, I always think, is that you can very easily fall into that trap of thinking, oh man, I need 5 lights and I need this modifier, I need that. And I can't do that because I have to get this other thing. And then before you know it, you're actually confusing yourself with all of these different options when really all you need is like one speed light and one softbox. And do that for like 3 years.
Yeah. And like I share with them like how important it is to master even just one light. Kind of like what you were saying. When I first started, I made the mistake to have like all different lights and have them all on, and it was just so hard, confusing, like you mentioned. But if you start with one light and master one light and just kind of like have all these different diffusers and see what they do, and then your options are, like unlimited because you know what that one light would do, and then you start adding like little things here and there. But yeah, that's the main thing. Yeah.
Do you think it's important to really knuckle down on one particular light so you know how to read that, and that allows you to just read light in portrait images in general, so you can kind of work out how that was lit and backwards engineered almost?
Yeah, like one of the things that we did in my class, for example, was to have the modern light on. And I practice a lot with continuous lights because I like to see what the light is doing. So when I started and I was making all those mistakes, I went back to just one light and making all those mistakes, but with just one, and then kind of like learning from all that and see what one diffuser did between one and the other and how close it was. But having either continuous light or a modern light also help a lot because you're seeing like in real time, like, okay, I'm making this mistake already, right? I haven't even like taken a photo, but I see that. And I think for photographers, like we need to, like you say, Gary Jonas, right? Like he has like, his amazing work, and he's told you, well, you haven't seen the 4,000 that they're not amazing. And that's because we all, I don't like to call them mistakes, but we make those photos before getting to the good photo, right?
Yeah.
And that's sometimes things that we don't see that we need to know and learn from them.
Yeah. And I think it's photographers, just like back in the olden days of film, we had contact sheets.
Yeah.
And, the photographer would look at the contact sheets and go, not this one, not this one. This one, but we'll do this. Not this one. It's that ability to make choices.
Yeah.
It's somewhat easier when you're looking at 36 frames on a contact sheet compared to like 4,000, in your Lightroom, gallery or whatever. But I think that ability to actually, make the right choices and pick the right choice in the end is also super important.
Yeah, and that's a good point because if you know what the equipment does, you are probably not going to end up with 4,000 photos, right? You're going to end up with less photos.
Yes.
So less work for you to go through all those because you're making less mistakes. But yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Do you shoot tethered when you work with a model, for example?
Yes, I love tethering because for me it's always about being efficient. I always say this: efficient. So having the modern lights help me see and making less mistakes, less photos for me to go through. And tethering also is another way for me to see what's going on. Because sometimes in a little camera, you might not see like the shadows real well or something, it's so small, right? And when you have a big monitor and you're seeing everything, for me at least, it's like my process is easier. I'm confident that I took like a very good photo. Because sometimes what happened before is like I will look it through my camera like, oh yeah, this is amazing, and then go home and sign my camera like, oh no, if I couldn't move this one thing, or this light could have been a little bit different, it would have been much better. But I couldn't see that then. So totally, yes, it's for me. It's I always do it in my studio.
Yeah, same. I mean, in the space, in my little studio, unfortunately, the space is such that I cannot completely darken the space. So I have some light pollution, which I can't do anything. And so I naturally tend to shoot with strobes most of the time for that reason, right? But of course, it then means I need to tether so I can actually see what's happening.
Yeah. I mean, it's a really good tool, and nowadays we have so many programs that are making it easier for us to tether, right? And another benefit for me to do tether is because I can move little, like in Lightroom, like move little things and be like, okay, I can make this adjustment, or I can make this. I don't have to go and have all the light power on my light, because it might be a battery light power and then it might die. But if I do this adjustment, it kind of works, right? So yeah, I mean, and also the models love to see their photos after a while. And
good point.
So win-win, right? Yeah. They love it, and it's easier for us.
See, what I love about tethering is I love shooting black and white portraits. Okay. And I love to have the whole process in black and white. Some people shoot in color and convert and post. Fair enough. But I like to do the whole process in black and white, which means I set my viewfinder to black and white. I create a Lightroom preset.
Yeah.
And in Lightroom you can automatically apply the preset. And so I see everything from what I see through the viewfinder to what's coming through in Lightroom on a tether screen. It's all black and white, the whole shebang, from start to finish. And I couldn't believe what a difference that makes in terms of lighting and the decisions you make when you don't get distracted by the colors. That is.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, because I have seen a lot of people do that. And you know what? When I edit, one of the things to make me focus either on the light or like other elements, or see if I make some mistakes, I have a couple things that I do, and one of them is turn my photo, like I edit it and then I turn it black and white, just to see where the light really is and kind of like get rid of the color. Another thing that I do is like sometimes I have the picture go upside down.
Oh, okay.
Just to give me my brain like thinks different, and see, okay, where the light actually is and what my brain sees first. And sometimes it's, maybe the hands are like brighter than the face or something like that. It just gives me a different perspective, and I'm like, okay. So those are the little two things I do.
Yeah. That's a really good idea. I think on its head. I need to use that.
Yeah.
See, I've learned something. You must learn something.
Yes, always.
Cool. So what's next for you? Are you staying in the UK for a little while? Or?
I'm staying till Thursday, so I'm gonna go explore London and see. Yeah, I'm gonna get lost over there. I can't wait to go see, because I've seen so many things online that I can see. And like I say, it's my first time, so everything will be new. So that's exciting. So yeah, here until Thursday, and then I gotta go back because I have a little 2-year-old.
Okay.
Who you have to get back. Those days, years don't last that long. So yeah.
Fantastic. Are you going to be at Imaging USA this year?
Yeah, I love going to Imaging and to at least the bigger conferences. I last year was a little bit hard, even though I did win, because my baby was a little smaller.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I love to go to all those conferences, and now I'm getting back to kind of like do the print competitions a little bit. So I entered to that competition. So we'll see how, fingers crossed. Let's see how it goes. Yeah.
Oh well, I'll see you at Imaging.
Awesome. Yeah.
Fantastic. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mathew Browne, back in the house.
Indeed. Good to see you as always.
Yes.
You have the new, look at these. These are pretty special.
Yes.
Can I have one?
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you very much. That's coming home with me.
Yes, we have the new version 2, V2 of the Coast.
Version 2.0. Fantastic.
Version, the traditional, the original, still around.
I also have that.
Oh, perfect.
Pride a place in my office, my friend.
Oh, man. Fantastic. Cool. That's the thing. This is the thing about business cards, right? So here's one thing I have learned about marketing, about good marketing. Okay. So normally, when you go to a show like this one or like the photography show or any show like that, people tend to give you their business cards,
Correct.
which is perfectly cool. But the problem is you end up with a whole stack of business cards. And if you're like me, I never remember who's who, the day after. So because I have way too many of these business cards and they disappear in my wallet and all the rest of it. So, of course, what people do is they go, well, screw business cards. Let's do the digital thing on the phone thing, right? To me, that's even worse because now...
It's awkward, isn't it?
Well, not only that, but that name now disappears amidst the 2,000 other contacts that I have on my phone. I've never find that person ever again because... you meet so many people at shows like that if anybody asks me, like, oh, what was the name of the guy from so-and-so? Like, I don't know. Was it Dave, Dan, Derry? I don't know, So there's no chance of me finding that person ever again on my phone. So here's the thing. Coasters. Too big.
100%.
Too big to fit in your wallet, okay? And useful. So you can actually use them for stuff.
I got to ask you now, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Best swag you've ever gotten at some sort of photography trade show? There's some companies you'll get the same things over and over. So tote bags. What do we think about tote bags? Tote bags are out. Too many people doing them.
I still like them. Actually, in fact, there might be similar swag like this be coming very soon. But anyway, tote bags, I do like them. One of the best things I think I got at Imaging last time was a Nikon baseball hat. Sorry about that. Yeah, like a baseball hat. Because Nikon, at the photography show, have over the last few years have always given out these Nikon tote bags. Okay. And so I thought it was something different, giving out a hat. Good quality hat. I'm liking it.
I'm blatantly harvesting ideas here for next time. You know what I'm thinking is, I think lens cloths is probably the one. You always need a lens cloth.
But here's the thing. So when I was at Imaging last time in Dallas, after the first day of the show, in the evening, because it's this resort, and everybody's there, and, la, la. You can see all the people that go to the show are all in the resort afterwards. And it was amazing how in that sea of people, you could tell exactly who the Nikon shooters were because they were all wearing a hat. And that is brilliant. Because
next time you see me, I'll be wearing a Luminar or Photohound hat, I'm sure.
Yeah, I know. But, it's the thing about that is, my impression with that was it's real, it's actually quite an expensive piece of merch. A hat's expensive. And for them to give out tons of hats was actually, I kind of felt appreciated,
Right.
I see
that.
It wasn't just a cheap, pen or, something. Of course, these coasters are extremely high value. But, and the recognition factor was just amazing because you could see all of these Nikon shooters, because everybody was wearing this hat. So it did what a good piece of marketing merch should do. It should make the recipient value the item.
Right.
They should use it. But if they use it in a way that it's outwardly obvious so that everybody else can see that they're using it, that's even better. That's like next level, So that's why I always think with things like, I don't know. Lens cloths is probably a good example. I have plenty of lens cloths, some of which I value a lot, like the Adorama ones that they gave out last time with the little bags.
Yeah.
Very, very useful. But nobody else will ever see me using them because I just, use them by myself or on my own.
Good point. And the crucial question is, have we found a baseball cap today? Any baseball caps?
Nope.
None today.
Nope.
That's a shame.
However, hang on a second.
Do we need a drum roll? Oh.
Stuff is coming.
That's awesome.
I know. So, I love a bit of merch, man.
It's very nice merch.
I know. Anyway, tell me about your talk. You've been speaking here today.
I have indeed. I just came off stage. So So now I'm a bit more relaxed now that the main event is over, right? I was speaking here today on behalf of Luminar Neo and explaining how I've started a new photography company. So my background is in travel and landscape astrophotography, basically anything but people. And now my main source of income is actually wedding and portrait photography. It's a bit of a change of direction for me. So the talk is about the practicalities of doing this. It's not just a case of turning up at a wedding and suddenly you're a wedding photographer. There is prep involved. There are skill sets you need to acquire before you're ready to do it professionally. There's plenty of Uncle Daves who will turn up with their camera and think that they're a pro. But if you're going to be serious about it, and I wanted to be serious about it, it is a process. So my talk was about that background, that process, and then the marketing side of it, because it's one thing saying you shoot weddings, but actually finding the customers is fairly important as well. And of course, at the end of the talk, I wrap it all up by explaining how I streamline my editing process with Luminar Neo.
How was that transition for you from, shooting mainly landscapes and cityscapes? And I've seen your books, and your work is fantastic.
Thank you.
Especially your book on London. Love it.
Checks in the post. Thanks.
How was the transition for you? Because when you're creating landscape photography and you're creating books, and that's the product you're selling, the marketing of that product is very different from marketing to people when it comes to people photography.
100%. In fact, one of the points I was really driving home is that it's almost a completely different discipline, because that kind of photography, the landscapes, the astro, the mountains don't talk back. And you can trial and error a little bit when you're shooting landscape. If the shot isn't quite right, that's fine. The mountain's still there, shoot it again. You don't have that luxury if it's the first kiss of a wedding. You have to nail that shot. Likewise with the confetti. Those are the two big ones. The confetti shot as well. That confetti's raining down. You better have those right settings dialed in to get the shot, because once that confetti's on the ground, that's it. You don't get another crack at it. And truth be told, this was the source of my greatest anxiety. It was all of the what ifs. And maybe that's more to do with my personality type. I'm kind of an anxious person, loads of self-doubt, loads of, dare I say, imposter syndrome as well. And the biggest hurdle I had to overcome was myself in doing this, and actually believing that I had the ability to do it. And, a part of that was going out and getting new training, going to portrait photography workshops, flash lighting photography workshops, and actually training days specific to wedding photography, where you can, you're in the company of a model who will, they will be your bride and groom. So you can try out some of the soft skills like, adjusting the couple, showing them how you want them to pose and that kind of stuff. You can't get on the job training like that as a wedding photographer. You got to go out and get it. And as it relates to the marketing, I mean, gosh, that was entirely different. My landscape, my travel photography, most of that is derived from social media. I'm by no means the most followed person on Instagram or something like that, but the audience I have is generally appreciative of the kind of stuff I do. So I've had some work through this. I've sold some books, obviously, to that audience. But finding a couple who are looking for a wedding photographer, that's totally different. They are not going to be on my Instagram looking at my pictures of London, let's say. They're probably going to be Googling for a wedding photographer. They're going to be at a wedding fair meeting wedding photographers. So my discipline in marketing myself is totally different now. And my two areas of photography now, the stuff I do for my own enjoyment and the stuff that I do commercially, there's very little overlap in those markets. You know, it's separate Instagram accounts, it's separate Facebook accounts, it's, dare I say it, separate Google AdWords accounts also. It's been a big learning experience for me, and I think I've been brought down a peg or two in terms of my ego as well. When I you know, as much as I had a bit of self-doubt about my ability behind the camera, I was certain I knew what I was doing with the marketing. I found out quite quickly that what worked for my other areas of photography didn't work so well with weddings and portraits. Thankfully now I think I've got the right formula. I should point out as well, I'm saying I and me a lot, I work in tandem with another photographer. Her name is Kelly Dixon. And it was just one of those things. It's like fate. So certain people are meant to meet, you know. It just turns out that our children go to the same school. Her eldest boy is in the year above my son. And, you know, two photographers, they get talking. And it turns out that she had almost the opposite problem to me in terms of her skill set. I felt that I was confident with the editing side of things, the marketing and the business side of things, but I felt that I wasn't good at the soft skills that go along with portrait photography, posing people, the verbal prompts that get people to light up and smile and you get that perfect shot on camera. She was fantastic at this stuff. I say was, she obviously still is fantastic at this stuff. And, you know, as a result, she seemed like a perfect person to link up with and maybe do some work with. But it just turns out that the things that I'm strongest with, she felt weakest on. So she didn't feel that she had the skill set with the marketing, the social media, the business side of things. So we were, and still are, a really good match as business partners. And of course, being two photographers in one business, we can now do second shooting at every wedding if the wedding calls for it. I've always got a reliable second shooter and vice versa. If one of us shoots a wedding, the other one might do the editing, and maybe we, you know, split the funds that way. And also for both of us, we take some comfort in the fact that we have each other as a safety net.
That's super important. Yeah.
You know, I don't know if I'd ever have been that confident to go it alone in wedding and portrait photography. I know that she feels the same. And yet I will say, just a couple of weeks ago, she did ditch the day job. This is now her full-time profession. So yeah, I don't want to make this sound like it's a journey I've been on my own. I have had an excellent business partner to work with along the way.
It's often a really good idea to find a co-conspirator, you know?
Co-conspirator is a good one.
You know, it's, I mean, you know, when I first started the podcast, you know, I started with a friend of mine. And it was, you know, it was at the beginning of the pandemic. I've told the story millions of times on this podcast. But, you know, it was an idea that we had been kicking around for a while. And I think, you know, when the pandemic started, I don't know if I would have started a podcast on my own, you know, at the time. I think it really helped having somebody else there, you know, because we could solve problems together.
Right.
You know, and Nick had a particular skill set that was different from mine. You know, he was an audio engineer. He was a videographer. So his skill set was very much in that area. You know, my skill set was more in the stills photography side of things. But when we put everything together, it basically solved, or it allowed us to find a solution for each obstacle.
Right.
You know, and so
this is very similar, actually.
Yeah, and
what you're describing.
Yeah, and so it was really just, you know, two people of the same mind, but with skill sets that would, what's the word? You know, interlock, or you know, yeah, whatever the word is, can't think of the word, interlock. And so, you know, as a unit, it made us so much more like powerful in a way, you know, because we could launch the podcast, we get it going really quickly, and we could also, I think, and this is one of the most important things, I think, we had the ability to backwards engineer things and look back at an episode that we just recorded and go, okay, right, let's take stock. Well, this went well, this really didn't go well. We have to find a solution for this, blah, blah. And so really, you know, I think the difference between episode 1 and episode 10, let's say, was huge. We'd really, I think by episode 10, we sort of really figured out what it was that we wanted to do. And then from then onwards, initially it was just a matter of adding things to it. We need more lights, more cameras, blah, 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 because we want to make it better, da, da, da. And then you get to the sort of the pinnacle of that. And then you get to the point where you've added so many things that it adds so much time to your workflow, basically. That then you get to the point where you go like, okay, how can we make it better, but streamline the process at the same time? And then we actually went back from 3 to 1 camera, and from I think 7 lights we had at one point.
Wow.
To 3 lights. Because all that takes time to set up, and if you have 3 cameras, you have to edit 3 video tracks and all the rest of it. It just adds so much time and effort on the back end of it that it gets very quickly gets to the point where it just becomes an insurmountable task if you want to do it reliably every week. And so you very quickly then realize, okay, well, we're going to streamline this whole thing. You have to make it efficient so that it's realistic, that we can actually do this every week, But having a co-conspirator and just being able to talk about those thoughts, for example, was super, super important. Yeah, that's probably the one thing I feel like since Nick's not involved in the show anymore, that's the one thing I thought I was going to miss that the most, not being able to just exchange yourself with somebody else, But this is where I think the photography podcasting community has come in, and I've got to know so many other photography podcasters that now it's really quite easy for me to, get on a text machine with Steve Brazel from behind a shot or something, go like, hey man, how do you do this? And so it's a similar thing. But again, it's the importance of having co-conspirators and, people who are, into the same thing.
Right.
It's super important. Did you take a leap of faith into the wedding photography industry, or were you pretty sure that was going to work? Or
Good question. So, I mean, in my case, it's one of those things where as soon as people know, when I say people, I mean like the general public who may not be photographers, they see you have a nice camera. Sooner or later, you're going to get a tap on the shoulder from someone saying, hey, my niece is getting married, or whatever the case may be. Can you shoot the wedding? And I just kept saying no because of, my perceived lack of ability, my imposter syndrome, call it what you will. The pandemic then happens. And well, let me say, first of all, Skylum looked after me very well during the pandemic, and all of the photographers on their roster. I'm very grateful for that and will be loyal to this company for that reason. But I'm sure you can appreciate that the pandemic was not a good time for self-employed photographers.
Yep.
So, coming back from the pandemic, there were a lot of people then who had postponed their weddings and were looking for someone. Pandemic's over, let's actually do this. And there was a little bit of a surge, I found, in inquiries, like cold inquiries, I should say. Just people who knew of me and were wondering if I did weddings. And it got to the stage where, if I can just be so blunt about it, I'm leaving too much money on the table. Service-based photography, I don't think is going to go away. Landscape type photography, astrophotography, that kind of stuff it's something I love. It's very difficult to make it pay the bills. You can sell prints. Sure. You can sell the occasional book. It's not regular enough income, I think, to be a full-time job for many people in the industry. At the top level, sure. When you're talking about people with 500,000 on YouTube or Instagram, something like that, then sure, they can make a career out of it. I'm not at that level. And making that a career, or at least my only source of income, I don't think was ever going to be an easy task. But when you have people inquiring about weddings without advertising them, bear in mind, it did make me just think maybe there's maybe I should give this a look,
Yeah.
and just see how I go. And like I said, meeting Kelly, who was in, the position she was in, I should explain, she had a full-time job, and she would do wedding photography typically at the weekends, sort of, it would be condescending to call it a hobby job, but it was, she had a reputation, she had bookings, it wasn't salary money. And there needs to be a tipping point where you do enough of the weddings that you can ditch the other job. And she was finding it difficult to bridge that gap without taking some sort of leap of faith, like you described. By having myself on board as the co-conspirator, it allowed me to do what I'm strongest at, which is building a business, having a marketing plan, building up the interest to such a point where we've got bookings, 18, 24 months in advance. She can see that calendar. She can work out how much money might not be in her pocket now, but is coming, once we see all of these weddings through.
That's the safety net.
And you reach that tipping point. Yeah. So it is difficult. And this is one of the things I was saying on stage just now is it's so easy for someone to say to a photographer, oh gosh, you've got some talent. You really should do this full time. Reality is not that simple. You've still got to pay your bills.
The problem is just generally in the arts, and I draw, as always, parallels to music. The problem is that everybody wants art and everybody adores art, and people adore artists and all the rest of it and appreciate artists even. The problem is just that nobody wants to pay for art. And
they love it until an invoice turns up.
Yes, exactly. They love it until they see the price tag. And, and that's the thing. And this is, the problem, of course, with that is that those people who are making the art, they need to live off something. And it's not, we're not talking about like driving Rolls Royces and anything like that, it's about making a decent living. And when it gets to the point where that's not possible anymore, then, I think, especially in music, people shoot themselves in the foot because you end up with a product that's AI generated or, formulaic or whatever, So that's always a problem. So from a photographer's point of view, of course, we're gonna have to go out there and find a feasible means of making a living, and whether that's whether it's shooting weddings or events or birthday cakes, whatever it is at that point. It's an interesting thing, by the way, because for years, and I look back at the episodes that I've recorded over the last 5 years, right? And so for years and years and years, people used to say like, oh, you have to specialize, right? You've got to like niche down and you got to become the best in this particular niche, and then you can charge whatever you want to charge, that's the way to do it. And I think that's true under certain circumstances. But more recently, I've heard people swing to the other side where people say like, oh no, you've got to diversify and like, add things to your bow, add strings to your bow and do all sorts of different things, And so I think the conclusion that I've come to is that, when you're living in times of a booming economy, when everything's going swimmingly, basically, you get plenty of opportunity to specialize, because there's a market there, people are willing to spend money. You find your audience, you find your customer base, and there's going to be enough to go around so that you can make a decent living. When that economic environment changes, however, it's a completely different story, because in the times that we live today, it's getting increasingly more difficult. The economies are not doing as well. People are holding on to their hard-earned cash, they're not spending as freely. And at that point, if you specialize too much, there just isn't that customer base anymore, so that you're going to have to diversify and do additional things so that you can compensate for the shortfall in other areas,
I used to think like this, by the way.
Yeah.
I was a big advocate for specialism when I first went professional. That also played a decision in why I would turn down these kinds of jobs, because I'm not that kind of photographer. I think there's been a big attitude shift during and post-COVID because people realize income streams can go overnight.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
And it can be very, very difficult to get that back on track when that global event, let's say, ceases to be. It is a challenge
because it changes. It changes society on so many levels. It changes economies because, COVID did. The British economy wasn't the same after COVID.
No.
Neither was the US economy or the world economy in general. Yeah, but people's attitudes changed as well because, once you find yourself, for the first time in my lifetime, stocking up on toilet paper and rice and pasta, you start to think differently about how freely you spend your money.
Yeah.
In many ways. Ooh, we have the Joker right there.
I think you should be in this seat.
You should be on this side of the game. So it changes people's attitudes, to spending. And I mean, I know of many people who, friends and relatives who, for instance, had planned to do big, lavish weddings before the pandemic. And then, of course, when things started to come back, their wedding plans had changed dramatically. They just didn't want to. Either they couldn't afford to spend
Correct. Yeah.
tens and tens of thousands of pounds on their wedding anymore because of the impact that COVID has had.
It's interesting you should mention that, actually, because this was quite literally one of the points I made in the talk is you got to think quite carefully when you are going pro like this about the levels of coverage that you offer. And I illustrate this with a real example, a booking that we got. I mean, I should say, initially, it was not good for the ego because the couple in question said, well, look, we'll be honest, you weren't our first choice. So initially I was like, oh, well, great. Thank you very much, But they explained the situation that they were in. I won't name names, but the style that we have in our wedding photography is sort of natural. We like a lot of candid looks in our work. We do the usual kind of Hollywood style couples with shots with the couples and the newlyweds. But as it relates to the rest of the guests, we don't like to just go up to people and take a picture. We like to be, almost paparazzi style, getting candid shots of the guests enjoying themselves at the reception, having a little laugh, having a little in-joke, all of that kind of stuff. These are the images actually that people remember the most from their wedding. And I like to think we're quite good at that. And this couple had approached another photographer about their wedding. It was a modest affair. It wasn't a full day sort of thing. It was a ceremony and then just a meal in a local restaurant. So they don't need 8 hours of coverage for this. They found a photographer with that kind of style who would do, take them out in the garden for some lovely shots, and then the rest of it would be very natural, very authentic, nothing posed. But that photographer turned them down, saying, I don't do short bookings. Well, here's the punchline to this. This was a midweek booking with reasonably short notice as well. I want to say it was maybe 3 months notice. And it was middle of December. And I really question whether or not they were going to get, with 3 weeks notice, a better offer than that for their time.
Absolutely.
Now, all respect to them. If they just can't be bothered, they can't be bothered. That's them. We found a bit of a niche targeting that kind of market because there's a lot of photographers who have been doing this for 10, 20 years who just perhaps turn their noses up at the smaller bookings. I don't do this. A bit like I used to say, I don't do weddings, They haven't adapted to the realities of the current economic climate, I think. And as a result, we're now carving a bit of a niche for that. We do very well, in fact, out of the kind of 2 to 4 hour micro weddings, elopement style weddings. Often I have to act as witness because it will literally be just, the couple, their registrar. I'll be, signing it for them afterwards as well because they haven't got guests. They just want to do something very small and discreet and on their own. But coming back to my point about the talk I just did, this was one of the big takeaways that I hope people got from that talk, is that it's very easy to go on your website and say, yes, this is what I charge for 8 to 10 hours. You got to be realistic, though, about how many of those bookings you're likely to get, especially earlier on in your career. And for me, I think I would be much happier filling my schedule with shorter bookings rather than holding out for the occasional longer and higher paying one, you know? But that's just me.
There's a very interesting German saying. There are many sayings in the German language that make no sense whatsoever, but this one goes, small animals create a lot of poop. And what that really means is that...
Forgive me if I don't use that phrase to sell our packages.
I know, but what it means is that lots of little things can have a huge compounded effect.
Correct.
You know, and this is always the thing. Matthew, I've just had a super awesome idea.
Okay.
We should do a full episode, and we should literally dive into exactly that. It's how, finding your niche. Because I think it's a really good example of where you look at, an industry like wedding photography, and you basically think, okay, well, these photographers are doing this, this, and this. Where can I identify a niche for myself where I can fit into the wider picture of wedding photography?
Sure.
But within that, I can actually target a very specific audience that, may have been overlooked by others, or is not being served by others. So I think that'd be a super awesome episode to do. Matthew, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's good to see you, man.
Always good to see you.
It's good to see you. Cool. And I'm looking forward to, you're going to be at the photography show?
I will indeed, yes. I've already got my my hotel is booked and everything. We're months away now as we're recording this, but it's in the calendar, so I will be seeing you.
You're way ahead of me because I haven't booked anything yet. Matthew, it's been an absolute pleasure, man.
Good seeing you.
Emma and Graham from Session Days. How's it going, guys?
Fantastic. It has been really, really busy. We've had a great day. We've met so many photographers, and this is the first time we've actually sat down since about 8 o'clock this morning.
Yeah, because
you're coming for lunch.
Yeah, your booth has been mega busy.
Yes, which is always very gratifying.
Yeah,
and we're very grateful to the people who made the effort to come down. So, thank you.
Yeah. So let's explain a little bit of what you do. So you're creating session events for photographers.
Yeah. So there's sort of two sides to what we do. So we do themed events on location, all sorts of themes from, beautiful ballerinas to zombies to, historical Tudor, all sorts of everything. And then in the studio, we do smaller events that are slightly more sort of tuition-led by us. We're both photographers. We teach lighting styles and people get to shoot as well, but usually like noir or fine art or creative lighting style. So there's a bit more learning involved in those. And we've been running for 10 years. We do about 30 events a year. We're very lucky that
we're always sold out.
Always sold out. We don't have to advertise. So we've got a very supportive group of photographers that follow what we do and come on our events. So we're very grateful. We love it. We really enjoy it.
And so today we had Uncle Fester
in the morning
and the Joker.
And the Joker in the afternoon.
Cool. How do you come up with your with your characters?
I watch a lot of films, and I draw inspiration from the movies, and so I look to see which ones are possible to do, which ones I would suit, and I prefer to do ones where I'm not recognisable as me.
Right.
So that's where my inspiration comes from, really. So I do a range of different makeups or facial hair. I wear a beard sometimes because I did the Viking last year. And I try and adapt to a new character as often as I possibly can.
What I particularly liked with the Uncle Fester outfit was the light bulb. I thought it was a really awesome touch.
It's not easy having that in your mouth, having to press the button with your tongue.
Oh, yeah. I was wondering how that worked.
No, I've got a very strong tongue now.
Yeah. So how did you come up with the basic concept of Session Days?
Well, it was your idea, really, initially.
We were both actively involved in a camera club.
Okay.
And we both had an interest in portraiture. And we just happened to be in the right place at exactly the right time when there was demand for creative portraiture and for portraiture in general, because there was a lack of it in club competitions, we started what we were doing. It became very popular very quickly. And then a lot of the photographers that come to our events have gone on to win local, regional, national competitions and international competitions and achieve accreditation, whether it be PAGB or FIA or LRPS. There's lots of different accreditations, and that list of people who've done well has really been what's enabled us to flourish.
Because it's word of mouth. So people do well, or where did you take those? People mention us. So it's why it just goes from strength to strength. So with the first one we did was supposed to be a one-off. And then
we're the best at what we do by a mile. So don't go anywhere else.
He says modestly.
These guys are really very good.
Because we'll find you.
Whereabouts are you based, by the way?
So we're based in Manchester. We've both got studios in Manchester.
Okay.
We work a lot around the Northwest because obviously it's easier for us because that's where we're based. But we work in the Midlands. We're going over to Ireland later in the year. Then we're going up to Scotland. There's definitely a demand on the South Coast. So a lot of our photographers will travel from Plymouth and Cornwall and Southampton up to us in Manchester. So there's a demand for what we do, and we are trying to sort of spread it further afield geographically, just because we are so sold out in the Northwest that it's a blessing and a curse. I mean, it's great for us, but it's very frustrating for photographers. So we're trying to do more events and further afield, so more people can enjoy it.
So these mini one-day events, or
one-day events usually half-day sessions. They vary in size. We usually would have between 3 and 6 models, depending on the theme, depending on the size of the location, depending on what we've got in mind. They're all slightly different. And, we use models and performers and dancers, actors, and, we're always looking for new ideas. We're always looking for new locations, fresh faces to photograph. So it keeps us busy, but we love it.
Yeah. The Viking theme was pretty much in fashion. I think it's pretty much in fashion.
I think that's a good point, actually, because a lot of the characterizations tend to go in the cyclical. So, for example, I remember 10 years ago when we did this, Peaky Blinders was the big thing. Then that disappeared. Then it came back.
Right.
Then disappeared. Same with the Ragged Victorians. Same with Viking. Appeared, disappeared, it's come back. And so the cyclical nature of the characters probably reflects the fact that they've not been seen in competitions or they've not been seen amongst camera club members for a while. And then somebody will produce something, and the buzzword is, where did you get that picture?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Because I see, I witness a lot of camera club competitions, and I see the Ragged Victorians a lot.
Yeah.
To the point where I think I'm Ragged Victorian out.
And then in 2 or 3 years' time,
that's
come
right.
back again.
Yeah, absolutely.
That we find that happens a lot. So, for example, we went through a spell when we did quite a few Tudor-inspired events with one of our model friends who was able to do Henry VIII.
Okay.
And that became a bit over-familiar.
Right.
Then it started to appear elsewhere, and now that's not so popular. So we would find that maybe in a couple of years' time, if we were to reintroduce that, there'd be demand for it again.
Yeah. And I guess it's also sort of down to new movies coming out, maybe introducing new characters, something like that.
We've had Napoleon last.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Did it really well. That worked fantastic. So we keep an eye on
others we've done as well, isn't it? Well, Uncle Fester, there's a Wednesday film, isn't there?
Yeah, the TV show. Yeah, fantastic show.
We do keep an eye on what's happening because people like things that are new and fresh, and people like things that are sort of topical as well. So that sort of inspires us as well. So keep an eye on, the time of year. We're doing Halloween one, for example, in a couple of weeks. What's in the movies, what's in the news, what's happening, and sort of come up with new and fresh ideas. One of the most popular this year for us has been masterpieces, where we sort of recreated Lisa Van Gogh paintings.
Using clip backdrops.
We did actually, yes. We actually commissioned them.
Yes.
Oh,
we have
like this one.
We asked
Well,
them
it
to
is.
produce one of the background to the Mona Lisa,
Yeah.
and they did.
Yeah, did it perfect.
Yeah.
That was really popular because no one else was doing it. So that sold out literally in less than 10.
And we're doing one for the next one, which is the background to American Gothic.
Yeah, American Gothic. We're doing Gustav Klimt. So
You know,
that's different.
I had to do that recently, it was the year before last. I had to create an author portrait for an author who wrote a book about spycraft in the 16th century, or 17th century. Very interesting book, a little bit technical about, invisible inks and recipes and
Sounds right up the street.
It was super. It's awesome, fantastic. It's an Oxford professor of historical science, incredible book. But in the process, so there's a little bit of technical photography. So because they had to almost like rediscover certain techniques, and we had to basically photographically capture that. But then the author portrait was basically a reimagination of a classic 16th century portrait, which is a very similar sort of thing. And what it was quite difficult to do.
We found actually that particular event that sold out in what? It's 10 minutes.
Yeah, about 10 minutes. It's
Wow.
easy.
And the second one was pretty fast as well because people were inspired by what they saw on the first. We have people coming along who've got their own spin on what we're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they're actually inspiring in their own right. We did. There were a couple of people who came along to the masterpiece to do Mona Lisa, and they photographed with a crisp packet or on the phone.
Oh,
It was just a different spin. And then we had somebody come along on Saturday to a fine art beauty event in Staffordshire, and they brought with them a mini cello, and I think we both agreed they're probably the best shots
The images
from
are
the event.
beautiful. I like it when people come with their own ideas
Yeah.
because whilst we provide,
We give them the tools.
we give them the ingredients and we say, you bake the cake. We don't want to spoon feed it to you. We want there to be an element of your creative vision. You're an artist, you put your own spin on it. And so we really like it when people come with mood boards or with their own props or their own specific ideas because we will always help them achieve what idea they've got in their head. And they're often most successful because they're more unique than everyone else's images. You've just taken the thing that's put in front of them. So we like it when people come prepared.
do you think that is because people think in terms of, I want to create an image that I can enter into a competition? They have a very specific idea. Is that what it is? Yeah.
Something different. Something different that other people haven't got. That's going to have some impact and that only something that only they got.
I think the general buzzword would be that the majority of our customers are extremely competitive.
Right. Yeah.
Very competitive, and that's helped us tremendously because it inspires us to do something new.
Yeah.
I think you would agree with that one.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
it's also, it's, in a sense, it's actually perfect, because if you have your finger on the pulse of what's wanted in the
Create something that they didn't know they needed.
exactly right, create something that's different from what's out there already, that can really work into competition on the competition circuit, then
There's certain things that will always be popular. So the noir lighting, some mood and drama, and something that's a bit cinematic with the lighting is always
And
popular.
tells a story.
Something that tells a story, absolutely. The fine art lighting is always really popular. That's a classic Painterly style of image. That will always be popular. But then what we put in there, what historical period or which model and which costume or, if we do film noir or vintage Hollywood, try and make it a little bit different each time. That there's certain things that we know are popular. And then there's other things that are like the masterpieces was a complete, or they might like it, they might not. Absolutely. It was such a great event. We're running another similar one next month. So trying to give them things that we know are successful and they enjoy, but then things that are fresh as well, that will give them something for their portfolio that they didn't have before.
So how do you teach the lighting setup first? And then let them shoot? Or?
Yeah, in the studio we will teach the lighting setup. So if you're coming to a noir workshop, we will talk about what is noir lighting, what modifiers do you use, why we use the settings that we use, but then it's predominantly shooting, and then we'll continue to teach as they're shooting. So pointing out posing and composition and things like that. And then on location where it's less of a tutorial, it's more of a sort of portfolio builder. we're always around. We're both photographers. We're always around to help them with settings. And we find that we've got from people who've never done portrait photography before or never used lights before, all the way through to professional. Now, the professionals don't need our help. The person who's just picked up a camera will absolutely need us to hold their hand. So we will sort of help where help is needed, but stand back where we're not needed.
That's I think that was one of the things that I thought initially I found the most difficult was to bring everybody up to on the same page, basically. So a couple of years ago, I taught a workshop on location lighting up in the Arctic with a friend of mine, David Williams. And he specialized in Northern Lights photography. And so we had a couple of Viking models and we basically shot them in their natural habitat in the Arctic, in the Lofoten Islands, And so my whole thing was that, I taught people how to light models on location, blah, blah, blah. But so I figured, I wanted to do a masterclass on lighting first. So I could make sure that everybody was on the same level. And of course, some people knew everything. They were like super professional. But then there were other people who'd never shot with off-camera flash before, and you had to kind of bring them all somewhat on the same page.
We started, so from the location events, which is how we started, we started to do a portrait masterclass, which is a basic introduction to off-camera flash, modifiers, posing people, working with models, because I've never worked with a model before.
Yes.
We've had people say, will she stand or will she sit? So speaks English. You can talk to her.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So etiquette around working with people and how to put people at ease. So it's like a general portraiture sort of overview and lighting overview. So if people are completely new to all of it, we tend to recommend doing portrait masterclass first, because when they're on location and we've got maybe 6 different sets with different lighting setups, there's 2 of us. We'd be on 6 sets at once.
Yeah.
So we'd like people to have a little understanding of lights, or even how to use natural light, which is a skill in itself, which not everyone is good at.
Yeah.
So, they will get more of the bigger events if they do of a tutorials event first.
So now you've done a whole day of demo up here at the Click Expo. Are you doing anything? Are you doing other trade shows in the near future?
We're at the NEC.
For a photography show.
Oh, right.
Yeah, we'll be on the Boston Pro stand. I'll be
Not sure what we're going to do yet.
No, Graham will be modelling. I'll be teaching it.
Okay, cool. Well, I'll see you there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Fantastic.
I think that's it for plans so far.
Yeah. That's all our plans for 2026 as far as these things are concerned.
Amazing. And where can people find you?
So you can find it at sessiondays.co.uk. Our studios are in Manchester, but as I say, we work all over the place. Also on YouTube, so there's some tutorials on there. There is behind the
session days.
Yeah, photography session days on YouTube.
Right.
There's various tutorials behind the scenes, what happens on our events. Yeah. How to pose people.
How the days went.
Yeah, all sorts of things on
We
there.
get a flavour for what they're like to be able to attend.
Yeah.
Instagram, Facebook, all of it.
Fantastic. Amazing. Guys, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I'll see you at the photography show.
See you there.
Marcus. I call you Marcus Holdan. Marcus from Holdan.
Yes.
How's your experience been so far here at the Click Expo, I should say?
Yeah, it's been great. I've liked sort of the mix that we've done here. I think sometimes with photography shows, we get a little bit gear heavy and a bit kit heavy in focus.
Yeah.
So there's been some talks about people in the industry behind the process and things like that. And I think that's really important, because I think that can get lost quite often when we start talking about, megapixels and all the new kit and things like that, which, is important and has a place and a time. But I think we've had quite a nice merge of both with this.
Yeah. This is one thing I really love about the photography industry as an industry. It's really so people driven.
Yeah.
Although on the surface of it, of course, it appears as though it's a very gear heavy, which kind of it is, with new camera bodies and lenses and this and that and whatever.
Yeah.
But actually, as an industry, I found it extremely people-centric or people-focused, which I absolutely love. I come from the music industry, which is somewhat different, in many respects. And this is the one thing I really love about the photography industry, for sure.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. And I think a lot of people would agree as well. It's funny, it's not always just the click of the shutter, it's everything behind that, and you know, the building up to the shot and the creation of the shot and things like that. So I think you're right, it's very much who's involved, who's making that, and then, you know, not to minimize it, but the click of the button is almost the very much last thing, isn't it, that you're doing there.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about Holdan.
Yeah, so we're a distributor. We're a little bit different to a lot, though. So we're not just moving boxes, we're a value-added distributor. So we represent quite a broad range of brands, sort of leaning anywhere from sort of photography and content creation into videography, cinematography, and then we also have like broadcast and audio products as well. So quite a broad range, really, as you can imagine. But that can benefit us in a lot of ways. So we can build solutions for people, and we've got all those products that work together nicely. You know, we can have that experience with the products. We can even demo those products because we have those ourselves as well. And what we're really focused on is empowering people to create, essentially. So what we've just discussed there, you know, the products are great, but it's how can we help people create with those products? Not let's just sell the best of the best. That might not be appropriate at times and things like that. And so we're very much focused on a service and working with people, whether that's the resellers we work with, businesses when we're creating solutions, and just finding the best way that they can create what they want to create, frictionless as possible, and just enjoy that process.
It's basically finding the right tool for the job.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not just selling them the best tool for the job. Yes, selling them the right tool for the job, I think, as well.
Have you found that over the last, maybe since the pandemic, over the last few years or something, have you found that the customers that are interested in photography and video gear, have you noticed that those are becoming the same customer? Or is there still a clear distinction between video people and still photography people?
I think it's a really good question, and I think there's a few sort of areas. So I think to side note it, I think one thing that's grown out of that is content creation, and that's that own world, like you say. It's almost that blend of two worlds, but it's almost got its own outcomes. You know, it's very sort of business-led, in my opinion, you know, and it's for a purpose or an outcome, essentially. Whereas sometimes with photography, videography, it can be a passion, it can be an enjoyment, it can be to impact someone in an emotional level. Yeah. And I think that's where they've sort of split up. And because of what you've just described, really, so people were shooting photography, video was growing on some of these social media platforms. You know, it might be because people like video more, but it also is because of engagement increasing. So then clients, customers were talking to photographers and saying, I need more video. I want more video. I want to bring people to me, to my customer base and things like that. And so that's when that blurred lines happened that you discussed there. So yeah, definitely. I think we had photographers going, my clients are asking for this. Where do I start? I mean, as you know, video is a different world for photography. And I think people forget that sometimes. They think it's, you're just taking a moving image. And it's like, no, there's a lot of hardware, software, and knowledge that needs to be within that. Yeah. And so I think definitely, and now we have a lot of hybrid cameras, hybrid shooters and things like that. And naturally you have people that pull away. So some people stick with photography and, some will lean more into video and completely leave photography. Yeah. And so there's definitely that blurred lines. But I think that new category that we're now calling sort of content creation has also been born.
The hybrid shooter term is sort of a relatively new term that I've noticed, it's completely true, in many ways. I've had this conversation so many times, especially in camera clubs. Like, when I speak at camera clubs, for instance, I'm a great ambassador, for video. Because I think that when I look at a typical audience at a camera club, and bearing in mind, maybe the audience might be a little bit older, but you have all these people sitting there with extremely capable video cameras.
Yes.
In comparison to when I first started in video back in the 80s, when camcorders, when I started, you had to carry a camcorder on your shoulder, basically. But still, it was a time when all of a sudden, movie cameras became affordable. What the hell was going on there? Do you know what I mean? And now, I thought back then, I can make movies at home. This is incredible. In color, with sound, My granddad used to shoot a Super 8.
Wow.
35 millimeter film, so it was the 8 millimeter film, or whatever it was at the time, And without a soundtrack, and it had its own flair, But when sort of the late 80s rolled around and all of a sudden you could buy camcorders, and it was like, well, this is like a whole different thing.
Yeah.
So I actually, at the time, used to, when I was a kid, I used to say to my dad and my grandmother, who were both photographers, I used to basically say to them, well, what are you doing? Still photography is dead. Go on. I mean, everybody's going to have a video camera.
Yeah.
But so whenever, I speak in front of camera class, for example, I always think like, wow, you've got all these people are sitting there with extremely powerful video cameras, and yet there's so much pushback when it comes to video.
Yeah.
But the reality is that in my business, especially since the pandemic, so over the last 5 years, let's say, the requests for video have gone up dramatically. I would say that before the pandemic, I don't know, maybe if probably, I don't know, if I did about 5% of video jobs, that's definitely gone up to over 50% now.
Wow.
That is incredible increase, and I'm pretty sure I'm not alone in this. I'm pretty sure it's just a sign. This is a sign of how the industry is, is operating, which is why I'm so wondering whether, the people that are requesting video gear now are basically the stills photographers from 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I can imagine that those people who go, well, I completely object to that. Those might be the people that go back into medium format film.
Yeah.
Something,
Yeah, I think they could almost really retreat in a way, but not in a
rebel.
Rebel is probably a better word because it's not a negative sense. I think I kind of love that. And, I toy between both sometimes. I'm like, I just want to really take my time and spend and create a beautiful image.
Yeah.
Because video is brilliant, but there is a lot of products involved. There's a lot to consider.
Yeah.
Once you start a story and a narrative, that's got to sort of line up, throughout the shots and things like that. And so I sort of hear them as well.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's more about, can't we all just create in the way that we want to comfortably?
Yeah.
But also, I find a little bit of friction is always kind of nice.
Yeah.
And so maybe trying that little bit of video, you don't have to shoot raw. It can just be straight out of the camera and, creating a little bit of a story. I feel like sometimes you might not be able to say with an image, you do need, a bit of motion involved in that as well. But I would agree. I think that progression that's come from stills to the demand of video from many different ways has made photographers change, but also changed the industry a little bit. It's made, the resellers we work with have adapted and completely changed. Those, we work with retailers, I should maybe refer to when I say resellers, but retailers that we work with now, they didn't sell anything close to this kind of equipment, 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
And now they're really on board and they're enjoying it. And, there's more sort of conversation to be had when people are coming into their stores as well. So I think that transition has not only been seen in photographers to, videographers or hybrid. I think it's the whole industry has sort of transitioned, and you see it with major shows and trade events as well. Different brands and products that were never there before.
It's very obvious at the last photography show in London, where there was this whole creator space, the whole like content creator space. There was a completely new thing that's never been part of, and actually the photography show, really the proper name is the photography and video show. The video is not part, but this new almost like shooting on your iPhone content creation was brand new, and from what I could see, it was very well attended as well.
Yes, and I think, like I say, I try and not hold my tongue in a negative way. I think just understand the differences between it and the nuances between traditional photography, traditional, videography and cinema, and then content creation. And we sort of offer something for everybody there. And I think what's nice within the content creation world is a lot of the products are sort of removing the barriers to create, and they're just making it accessible and allowing people to create. Because, we don't all have to be worrying about, every little detail, our ISO, our codecs, and what we want to do. Sometimes you just want to create. And some of those people aren't in it for anything other than to create. I'm thinking of like streamers, gaming streamers, things like that, where like they love gaming. It's not about, what huge professional cinema camera they've got and how are they shooting and what are they shooting with. It's more, I want to share this with people. I want to connect. And I think as I'm speaking now, I'm realizing maybe that it's just a different kind of connection almost, Yeah,
it's true, because if I think about my workflow and the way I shoot things very often. So, for context, I create tutorial videos for a company called Platifrot, who incidentally also sponsored this podcast. And And so as part of that, I might be teaching a particular photographic technique, for example, let's say.
Yeah.
Or, I create an image and now teach how I made that image. But, across a number of different genres of photography. And as part of that, I would, I would shoot a talking head of me explaining, you're doing the voiceover, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I would film a whole lot of B-roll.
Yeah.
As
That's what we all do. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, of course, sometimes I have a gimbal and a camera and a lens and blah, blah, blah. But more often than not, I use an iPhone.
Yeah.
To get the exact same effect. Because sometimes it's not about making it really complicated. Sometimes it's about simplifying the process.
Yeah.
And demonstrating something. It's, for instance, if you're like in the middle of central London, for example, and I'm doing I'm not talking about how to shoot light streaks or whatever. Right. If I need some B-roll just of my camera sitting there, body part or something, an iPhone is quick and easy. Yeah. And it means I can carry it in my pocket rather than having to have a gear truck behind me, and it makes all the difference.
Exactly.
So with your view on how the industry has changed or how the market has changed, over the last 5 years, where do you see this heading, let's say, over the next 5 years? Like if you're thinking about what the future in 5 years, could look like.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
I think there's a few avenues to go down. I think one draws back to what you've just discussed, which is the iPhone and creating with the iPhone. And I think we've seen a lot of brands recognize the importance rather than, I think there's been some misconstrued understanding of, if you shoot on an iPhone, it's not good enough. It's not enough. It's not high enough quality and all this. Whereas when you actually look, you've got, companies like Blackmagic with the Magic camera. You've got the Atmos Ninja phone as well. Condor Blue with storage solutions to record straight out and also a hub to be able to connect multiple different peripherals into your iPhone. I think there'll be a lot more of that and a lot more accepting detail of that. People before were unsure. I think now maybe when they see the results, we've got, and I say this lightly because I understand there's adaptations and additional lenses and things put on, but we've got films being shot with these phones now as well.
I know, yeah.
And so I think, again, it increases that accessibility, and I think they'll both be an avenue for increased iPhone content creation, videography, cinematography, and the products to go with that, as well as there will be more growth on just more accessible products that make it easier for us to all create, because I think it's almost becoming kind of a normal part of our lives now. Yeah. I think we all want content in some shape or form, and we want it to a high standard, whether that's taking pictures of your children in a really high level. We have a much higher standard of pictures now than we ever did. Yeah. So you want your family images to look as good as, you would expect them to look, and things like that as well. I see another route, which it's already very big, but will continue, would be wireless. Everything, essentially.
Oh, man.
Transmission of all kinds, really. I only see that growing. I only see it improving because there's a lot of limitations and flaws, and I think people think you can just plug and play, and it's not quite that simple, especially, when you're in buildings like this and things like that. We have brands like Axoon, which are sort of pioneering really strong transmission, which doesn't limit you when you're in certain locations and you're like, oh, well, I'm shooting in this building, can't use it. The idea behind all of this is getting a lot easier and a lot better as well. Yeah. And so I think wireless is a very big one.
Yeah, wireless is huge. I mean, that's going to be a huge thing.
Yeah.
I often joke, that I can't believe that in 2025 I'm still sitting surrounded by so many cables. Like, there's no need for any of them.
But it's very traditional, right? I think we trust cables, we trust SDI cables that lock in, and we want that. And I don't think that will ever go away. But I think it will only improve, and maybe it will go away when we've refined it, Yeah.
But they're like certain things just work really well together. I always, and I'm really not an Apple fanboy. Maybe maybe a little bit, but not really.
Yeah.
But the one thing I noticed is that as an ecosystem, it just all works pretty much seamlessly together. Yeah. They go the Apple TV and all that, and it all just connects. There's no kerfuffle. There's no problems virtually ever. In my house anyway, and yet when I shoot headshots, I still have to wait several seconds before that image has gone through the tether cable. I don't understand why it sticks so long as there's no need for this.
Yeah, no, I would totally agree. And I think, funny enough, touching on that and the Apple ecosystem, I think you'll see a lot of brands also building out their own ecosystem.
Sure, yeah.
We have, for example, Atmos, who obviously well renowned for monitors and bringing a lot into that world, but also they're adding to their ecosystem now. So, you know, they're considering headphones because, hey, you know, people are monitoring their audio. There's post-production there that's involved.
Yeah.
They have their camera to cloud ecosystem as well as their online storage and things like that. And I think you'll see a lot more of that, and it's almost consumer driven a little bit more now.
Yeah.
Like Apple, for example. Whereas, again, I think it leans into this accessibility. It used to be a bit of a different world. It was almost gatekept, you know, photography was. Whereas now there's YouTube videos everywhere. You can learn photography however and whenever you want, really. And I think that will start to be what the brands do as well. They become like a household name or an ecosystem. And if you're shooting with, you know, one thing from them, a monitor, all of a sudden you're using their headphones and their transmission and things like that. And I think it'll grow from that, and there'll be household name also, almost brands.
You know what I thought the other day? I kind of thought, you know, I was looking at the new iPhone, right, the iPhone 17, and I was thinking, there's some cool stuff in there, you know, from a computational photography point of view. Some really cool stuff, like the tracking is really good, blah, 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 you know, lots of stuff is really awesome. And then other things where I think, like, you know, there's certain things I really hate about it, like the lenses, for example, right? So I thought, and then, you know, I look at my Nikon Z8 that I use all the time, and there's many things I love about that, and many things I hate about that too. And I thought, like, you know, why? If I was Mr. Nikon or Mr. Canon or Mr. Fuji, what I would do is I would build a camera with the most beautiful glass, all right, and I would make a dock on the back, and you just click your iPhone in there, and that is it. You marry the two together, and you'd be off to the races. So, and then, you know, you just take your iPhone out, and you switch to a Canon, no problem. You just click your iPhone in the back of that, and off you go. And then you can use all the advantages of the processor and the processing power and the whatever the magic is in there.
Yeah.
But you can also use all the advantages of your traditional camera, the glass and the big aperture and all that, you know, stuff at the same time. See, that's what I would do.
I think it's a really good point. And again, not to go back to them because it's not even intentional, but hilariously, when you're talking about that, you're sort of talking about the Atmos Ninja, really.
Yeah.
How they've gone, okay, we can't make, you know, a screen this good and also charge that price really when there's already one out there. So let's use it. And so with the Ninja phone, you've got one of the brightest, most clearest screens that you can have. But you've also got that interface to be able to download the file once you've recorded it from your professional camera, but then edit it on your phone if you just want like a quick social upload.
Well,
and this is where everyone is comfortable, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly the thing. It's like, you know, you take it like, you know, you take a picture on your Z8, you know, which is a beautiful picture, but then you're going to have to use some weird app to weirdly get it onto your phone so that you get, I mean, none of this makes any sense.
Yeah.
You just basically be clicking your phone in the back of that thing. Redone as it makes, it's already there. You know, if I want to take a picture with my camera and I want to post it on, you know, God forbid, Facebook, you know, or Instagram or whatever, there's a whole process you have to go through, which is completely pointless.
Yeah.
You know,
and very sort of alienating to a lot of people who are brilliant photographers. They don't need to worry about the rest of that, you know, and I totally understand that. And I think we keep going back to it. So maybe that's what it's going to be. But accessibility, I think, is really the word to where the future of the industry is going, is more people being able to do it comfortably, easily, and at any level. You know, you can still go in hard and you can still really, you know, go in depth with the glass that you're using and combining that with professional cameras. And, you know, we have the beauty of people shooting on digital and then actually running it through film to deliver it as a film now and things like that. Yeah. And so there's still going to be the people who experiment and push it, you know, and change things. But I think there also needs to be space for people who just want to enjoy creating.
Well, that's exactly right. And I mean, this is the thing that I love about photography, is that even if in 2025, with all of the video and stills capabilities of professional cameras and all the connectivity things that you can get in like smartphones nowadays, you can still, if you want to, get a Mamiya C330, head out and shoot medium format film. Yeah. If you want. Yeah. And that's totally cool. Yeah. You know, that's really, you know, that's the beauty about creativity and, you know, creation.
Yeah.
Creativity in general.
I think that's a nice way to look at it. It's almost like it's got broader
Yeah.
Even though we've got new technology, it's broadened on the other ends as well.
Yeah.
I think it's, it's got some height now. We've got different scenarios, different products, different ways of creating.
Yeah. This is actually, this is something I really, again, you're coming back to the industry as a whole. This is something really I've sort of experienced over the last 5 years or something, is that there's a lot more of an open-mindedness. There literally used to be a time when it was like, what do you shoot, Canon or Nikon?
Yeah.
And if you weren't in the right camp, then, you lost out. But I think to me, that's in the industry as such, I think that's completely gone away. There's so much more room for expression and creativity, and so that's I've always enjoyed that.
Yeah, and I think that's what I've experienced in trade shows and things like that. Really, it's just conversation. People just want to chat, and we chat to different people from all ages, opposite ages to me, but we'll still have the same kind of conversation almost, because it's just accepted, it's open, and we might be shooting different things, we might have different cameras, but as you say, it's more just, it's a passion, I think, is where it lies, rather than it being snobbery and things like that now. And that happens from time to time, but I think most of the time, you're right, it's a really open industry, and hopefully it'll just get more and more open, as we say.
Exactly. Are you guys going to be at the photography show?
Yes, we will be. Yeah, we'll be there. I think our first event of next year is the Society of Photographers, which is in January.
Right.
But yeah, you'll generally find us at most major trade shows. I think BSC after that, and then we've got MPTS. So that first half of the year, along with the show's a nice busy one.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, I will see you there, Marcus. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Ian.
Yes.
CRMs.
Yes.
Let's talk CRMs.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I guess for anyone who doesn't know what a CRM is, it might be a good thing to cover off first. Customer relationship management or client relationship management is the term. I guess it's something to help you to kind of stay organized and look after your clients and know what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, I think is a summary, kind of bringing everything together in one place so that you know what bookings you've got in, what inquiries you've got in, which client you've said what to, and then bundling that in with your, like financial stuff, like what you've invoiced to people, what they've paid, what they haven't paid, what packages they've agreed to, and all that sort of stuff. If that's all together in one place, and all the communication that you've had with your clients is together in one place, you are not spending ages looking around all over the place. And I think also if it's a place for you then to record, those important, little details with clients, if they've mentioned, for example, that they have if it's a wedding client that's got a dog, you can ask, oh yeah, what's your dog's name? And that's, how's Tilly doing, for example? Or, if they've given some sort of personal detail, you can keep that in there as opposed to trying to keep it in here. Yeah. It helps to give a more personal experience, I think.
It gets really complicated, I think, especially when you're running a business, to really keep track of all of those individual components, because if we're talking client journey, let's say, just to throw in a little, technical term there, especially once you're dealing with a multitude of clients and all at a different stage, I find it extremely confusing to always be aware of where in that journey somebody is, and tracking that and, I have a problem even just sending out newsletters. I'm saying this here, and there's a newsletter coming out for all of you watching and listening. But I have a problem even just tracking that.
Yes.
So what are the sort of nuts and bolts of a CRM that works? How does that work for photographers in particular?
Yeah, great question. So I think if we were to break it down into all of the different bits, I mean, first of all, looking at the shoots that you've got, the jobs that you're doing for your clients, that's kind of really the core of your CRM.
Right.
It's almost, think of it like a glorified diary. What are you doing, where and when? Okay, and splitting that out then into those jobs that have booked, those that are inquiries, those that have not happened. There's a tangent in exploring the value of keeping track of those jobs that never actually happened. There is value there as well. Within that, looking at those shoots, the different types of work that you're doing as well. So which different types of work you've got there, and where those jobs came in from. So what inquiry sources are working well for you, which marketing channels are working well for you. It's all really, really useful in one place. And then from that as well, it's not just what work you're doing, but who you're doing that work for. So who is it that is your client,
Yeah.
their contact details there. So you've got contact information, and then not just for your client, but also for everyone else who's involved within that shoot. Think, within the context of a wedding, yes, you might have the wedding couple there, but then you might also have family members as well that you might need to know, other suppliers. So if you're a photographer, then you might know who the videographer is and who the caterer is and who the venue is. For a family shoot, it's probably going to be mum who was getting in touch to make the inquiry, but then you'll also want to know who else is in that family, how old they are and stuff. So then the relationships of who's who, and that's where the relationship part of relationship management comes in. You know who is who and who's related to who there, which means at a glance you are then able to ask, oh, how's Sally doing, and that sort of stuff. Or when you're meeting people for the first time, you already know who people are, and that just gives that great experience. So yeah, there's the contact side of it in terms of your contact list and who you're dealing with, and being able to communicate with them. So sending emails and text messages from within your CRM platform means that you've then got a copy of what you've said to people and what they've said back to you, again, in one place. So it's not scattered across all the different
I
places.
suppose you can automate a number of those processes.
Absolutely, yeah. So emails and text messages, questionnaires and contracts and things as well. You can have templates for all these sorts of things so that you aren't writing stuff out every time. And yeah, that can all be automated too. So there's the concept of, within automation, the concept of workflows. So, around the date of a shoot, there's going to be certain things that you always do. And so, in the run up to a family portrait session, you always want to send an email, a week before the shoot with like excitement and how to get the most out of it. Maybe a text message the day before, say, can't wait to see you tomorrow. Maybe a text message the day after going, well, that was fun. Here's what to expect next, that sort of thing. So that, and again, that can be automated, but it doesn't have to feel automated to the clients. If you've written your templates well, to be able to make it feel like it's you, and use sort of tags within that to automatically personalize it so it mentions the client's name and things too.
So this is the thing I've really come to like a lot, is certain elements of automation.
Yeah.
And in my case, I thought, CRM to me is really interesting because I'm not using one at the moment, and I really should.
Yeah.
Because I sort of got I think like a lot of photographers, especially in the early days of the business, you start doing everything manually.
Yeah.
Because you think that, well, I don't need a bigger system yet because, I'm not making that much money, blah, blah, I don't have that many clients, blah, blah, blah. And then eventually you get to this point where you start to automate, you find systems for different elements, like, I don't know, maybe, use like Calendly or Crudy or something like that to automate scheduling and emails and, maybe, payments and stuff like that. But then marketing tracking is another thing, that is almost like an animal in its own right, And what I've the point where I find myself in is where I've got lots of these little systems, but there's no coherent platform or structure that puts them all together.
Yeah.
Right. So whilst I am absolutely saving a lot of time, I'm still spending a lot of time in matching all these individual systems together, if that makes sense.
It makes total sense. And I think there's the challenge that you would have in the situation that you're in right now would be is if I was to ask you, tell me which of your marketing avenues is that making you the most money? Or if you do different types of work, which of your types of shoots is making you the most money? And if you've got stuff spread across different places, yes, you can find that out, but it's going to take you some time.
Exactly.
Whereas, if you've got stuff all in one place, you can use the reporting tools that are built into your CRM to get that information out. Like it was interesting. I was chatting to a photographer the other day who wanted to know, they are a location photographer, a location dog photographer, and they work across a couple of different locations that they use. And they wanted to know which of their locations was actually the most profitable for them. And so we were able to do a search for those types of shoots, break it down to group them by those two different locations, and then was able to see the sales totals and sales averages from those. So like over the last 12 months, here's all my dog sessions that I've done, broken down by the 2 different locations that I do. Here's the sales average for one, here's the sales average for the other. So they were able to see which of those is more profitable. You could do that, like say for a wedding photographer, you know, which venues bring in the most for you as well. There was another photographer I spoke to recently who wanted to know like their sales averages for weekday weddings specifically as well. And so like how I'm doing on those, or actually also where are the weekday weddings coming in from, you know, and if again, you can find that stuff out in you know the systems that you have in place at the moment, spreadsheets and different, you know, disparate tools. But it's going to take you time to find that information.
Yeah, because nothing is connected, you know, and so you need to move data from one place to another place and find ways to export and import and chat GPT and all the rest of it. And, you know, you spend more time doing that than what you should really be doing, which is actually get in touch with people.
Yes.
You know, and create these you know, personal relationships, really.
100%. Yeah. And I think personal relationships is a really good point, as well. Like your CRM should be giving you the space to have those personal relationships with your clients and to be able to give that experience to your clients. Like, I talk a lot about automation in what we do, and you know, we provide a lot of resources in terms of being able to automate stuff, and that's great. But the automation shouldn't necessarily replace everything that you do. The automation gives you space and time to do the stuff that goes to the next level for your clients. Like you know, it's all about the, you know, the experience really for your clients. They are not photographed every day. You know, this isn't a day-to-day experience for them, and they need to feel looked after and to feel, you know, unique and special and heard and understood. And part of that for you is to, you know, with the automation means that you get the things that need to be said and the things that need to be done happen. Okay, so the reminders and the how to prepare for your session and that sort of stuff, and that can feel personal in terms of, you know, if you design those templates well, but also that gives you the space to do the stuff that automation can't, you know. So that is things like, you know, picking up the phone to nurture a client, you know, a lead into a booking, to pick up the phone to have a chat with the client in the run up to their session, to say, oh yeah, let's get this session tailored for you. Let's understand, you know, to actually just have a chat, to have a human connection, and you know, to do things like to have the space to do like in-person sales, if that's not something that you normally do, to actually give that space. And just stuff like, you know, even don't underestimate the power of like a handwritten note to a client as well, just a little thank you note and things. If automation is giving you space and time, you know, back from things, you've now got the space to, you know, take out a nice bit of paper and a pen and write a little quick thank you note whilst you send it off to your client. That's going to go, all that stuff goes a long way. You know, it doesn't scale, but it doesn't.
That's it. I'll tell you a funny story. Yeah. I think I've spoken about this on the podcast before, but so when my wife and I got married about 8 years ago.
Yeah.
I should know this.
I'll tell you what, should we do that several times? Do that 7 years ago, did that 8 years ago, did that 9 years ago, and then you can edit the right one in.
Exactly. But we
in post.
Yes, exactly. That's what we do. But we got married, and we both didn't want a big wedding, and so I was, at the time I was thinking like, who can I get to shoot my wedding? And it was really just a very small kind of thing, and I found through a connection in the music industry, I found a guy called Dan Akeley, who was predominantly a music photographer, but I really liked the way that he shot bands, and so I thought I love the look, perfect. So anyway, I got him. He came down, shot the wedding, and the original arrangement was, just digital, super easy. We were going to fly out to Canada the very next day, no big deal. Anyway, all of that happened. We got really lovely photos. It was fantastic. And about 6 weeks later, maybe 8 weeks later, I get a parcel in the post, and it's a little wooden box with prints.
Yeah.
Right? Like 30 prints or something. And, like little, pieces of woodland, I would say, moss in there and like some twigs. And it was really nice.
Yeah.
And a USB stick, with digital files. And I'm thinking that's such a nice touch because we never talked about prints. In fact, I didn't think in it before the wedding. I didn't really think that I was going to be interested in prints whatsoever. Since then, I love the prints.
Yeah.
And we look at the prints so much more often than we look at the digital version of the photos.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and so and it was just a really nice touch, and it really, you know, I love Dan. He's a great guy. But it really made me think about that customer relationship, you know, and that's just giving that a little bit extra and just doing things that you don't have to do, but just do them anyway.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think the thing is like there was an extra mile that you were not, as the client, you were not expecting there. And I think the thing is, if the photographer always plans, if the photographer is always planning to go that extra mile, the client doesn't know it. If you build that extra mile into what you're doing, into your process, and make sure that you're always going to do that little bit of extra, it's always planned. It always happens. But it's a delight for each client. I know one of our photographers who uses us. She does so well with like word of mouth referrals. That's her big stream of inquiry sources is through word of mouth referrals. And she knows who her top referrers are, who are the people who are sending work her way so regularly. And she makes sure that those clients have all been delighted at the point, you know, she puts a lot of effort into the delivery with the stuff like, you know, the nice presentation box, extra prints, but then there's also like lots of little bits like, you know, sweets or you know, little knickknacks, little things. There's a whole package there that is a delight for them to open and to celebrate. And then she will make sure that those clients are being very well looked after thereafter too, because she knows that they are sending more people her way. But yeah, making sure that you are giving those extras, you know, to do that. The stuff that, again, you know, it can't necessarily be automated, but the automation gives space for that. But then you also make sure that you are doing those extra things and stuff, and it just gives all that personal touch. It's key.
I think CRM is it's a huge conversation. We should do this in a completely separate, full length episode if you're up for that.
Absolutely.
I would love to learn more about that. Thank you so much for taking out some time. I know it's going to get busy in there, so thanks, man.
Cheers. Thank you for having me.
Fantastic.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, man. You. Okay, folks, that's it for today's special episode live from Click Live Lite 2025. It was an absolute blast speaking with so many passionate photographers, educators, and creators, and getting a real behind-the-scenes look at what's shaping the world of photography right now. And as always, before we go, let me just recommend another episode that I think you'll love. Check out our episode with portrait artist Peter Coulson, packed with insights that'll transform the way you see light and emotion in your work. If you enjoy what we do, consider supporting us over at buymeacoffee.com/camerashake. It really helps us keep bringing you fresh content from events just like this one. And don't forget to head over to camerashakepodcast.com and sign up to the mailing list, because you'll be the first to know about new guests, episodes, and live appearances. And we got some special treats for you coming up very soon as well. So for those listening on audio, remember there's a full video version over on YouTube, complete with all the sights and sounds from the expo floor. Just search for Camera Shake Podcast on YouTube, and if you're already there, hit that like button, drop a comment, ring the bell, and share with your friends. As always, keep shaking things up in the world of photography. See you next Thursday.